Now, the audience at home will have heard that, and Chris and Jamie won't, which is exciting because I think it was last year, quite a while ago, we said that we were going to make some cheeky little stings for the podcast, and I put the sting on just as we went live because it felt exciting, guys. Because we've never gone live before, so I thought, why the hell not? Hello and welcome to the SuperShow Podcast. I am Alex Jones. Today, Chris and Jamie are joining me, and people watching this, if anyone is indeed watching this, will probably be a little bit surprised because for the first time in a very long time, I convinced you both that we should do this live because why the hell not? So we are joining everybody live on the internet. It's nearly 10 o'clock in the UK at the moment. So there you go. And we've already got some comments from people saying, hello, wow, look, it's live. So there you go. Hopefully everything is not completely messed up.
Do we? I don't see any comments.
That's not for you to check. I will let you know if you need to be made aware of anything.
Jonesy is master and commander for this evening.
I will. I should
nice.
I should actually have checked and made sure that all of the levels and I should have taken a note of levels so next time we can get everything.
You know what, Jonesy, you're doing it your way, man, and that's mighty admirable. And I just hope that my audio levels are high enough that people could have heard me say that. So, yeah.
I should start off, though, as we always do, to say that we are a podcast. We are on YouTube as a podcast. We're also available on podcasting platforms. I'm talking Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts. We're also on paisleyradio.com Thursdays at 10 p.m, repeated on Mondays. So there are lots of different ways that you can get your weekly dose of video game news, hot takes, and trash opinions.
Well, I guess technically, doesn't this mean that there's now one more thing to add to that list? Which is that if this becomes a thing, if we stick to this, you can also now watch it live on YouTube on Sunday evenings, depending on whether or not that's when we do it.
I think two things that are going to kind of dictate that: how we feel about it and how the audience feels about it. So,
exactly, oh god,
give us all the encouragement that you've got. I guess is this going to be on as a VOD, Jonesy?
It will of course be on as a VOD, and it will get uploaded probably still on Mondays onto podcasting platforms. Because one thing we used to do was the video used to go up, and the podcasting platforms, the audio side used to go up at the same time. Obviously, we can't do that as we're doing this, but we recorded this every week together. We record everything, then put it together in post, and then published it to YouTube. So I said, why the hell don't we do this mother live, and we can actually just crack on and. Hopefully, if we get some comments by the end of the show, and if we've got time, we might have a ping over to the comment section, see what people are saying, and see how everyone is doing. Because why the hell not? If we've got the capability, boys, why wouldn't we do it? That is my question.
When in Rome, do as the Romans do, and the Romans loved checking comments on live streams.
They absolutely did. Okay, so one thing I'm gonna. This is what happens when you do it live. I'm gonna have to check with you boys. Do you want to do a story now? Should we drop a cheeky story before Patreons, or should we hop straight into that?
I think it might be nice to bring one before the fold and kind of let the podcast side of this whole new updated package kind of hit home.
Let's do it. Let's bloody do it. Okay. Boys, would like to talk about the fact that a game I love and have loved for years, Counter-Strike, may be getting a cheeky sequel, and it might be announced as soon as this month. That is, of course, a lie. I've never played Counter-Strike. I've never played CSGO.
I was going to say, a game you love.
This is the biggest secret you've ever kept from us. This is like the time you... Yeah, man.
It's one of those things where it's probably the biggest game in the world, like CSGO, yet I've never played it, and I don't know anything about it, and I'm never going to, and I do feel like I'm missing out to some degree.
Yeah.
Biggest game in the world? I mean...
Well,
one of the biggest esports, for sure.
It's also one of those things where, and again, this, it's Valve, so of course it's all self-contained, and, that they can... But every time we get a Cyberpunk or a Hogwarts Legacy style situation, and we're talking about look at all these concurrent players and look at all these peak numbers on Steam, CS:GO is always right up there for some reason, and it seems to fluctuate where it will just get massive boosts in popularity that are obviously timed to things that are going on in that community or with that game. But as people who don't play it, it's just oh, weird. Millions of people still play CS:GO, and I guess more power to them. This might be the thing that moves the needle.
Do you want to know the last 30 days?
Go on then.
821,000 average players with a peak of 1.4 million. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
like-
a healthy game right there.
That
Right,
is
exactly.
insanely healthy. But- So let me just tell you where this story is coming from. The reason we've got this little insight that the announcement might be being made very soon is that Richard Lewis, a journalist who's got a long record when it comes to breaking Counter-Strike related news stories.
Good old Dickie L.
Yeah, he broke the news of match fixing back in 2015. He said, the new version is almost certainly set to be released under the working title Counter-Strike 2, and the tentative release date for the beta is in the month of March, with April the 1st at the outside. The only thing is, that is April Fool's Day. Do we think that the old Dickie Lewis is being cheeky here and he's dropping an early April Fool's?
I mean, I'd have respect for that. Especially, I don't know anything about Dickie L, although as much as I love that nickname now that Chris has blessed him with it. But if he does have a long record of breaking stories, this is one of those things where you think to yourself, what a massive and unusual way to sort of like lose all your credibility within a certain scene if he does have some. It's just me taking the source at face value. The other thing I like about this leak is that when you're talking about the month of March and the date of April 1st, we are already in the month of March, and the date of April 1st is like less than 3 weeks away. So I do love a big rumor, a big, confirmed rumor, or is that what we call them?
Confirmed rumors.
For a second there, I was like, what do we call? What's the thing we say? I do love one of those that's got such a tight time scale on it, because there are so many of these clowns on Twitter that will be like, yeah, so it turns out they're going to do a ground-up remake of Final Fantasy IX, and it's going to come out in the next 72 years. Watch out, folks. Whereas now, Richard's like, yeah, if this doesn't happen in the next 3 weeks, you'll know I'm a liar, which I appreciate.
Yeah, that takes some balls for sure.
So that suggests that it's been being made for a long time, and that they just haven't announced it, and that they're going to announce it and then release it.
Well,
that quickly.
This is the weird, annoying thing about this, because I think what Dickie L is doing here is he's trying to formulate an L by just taking educated guesses. So I believe that Valve have come out before and said that they are looking to port Counter-Strike Global Offensive to their new engine, Source 2. Okay, they did it with Dota 2. So Dota 2 did go from Source 1 to Source 2. But it was the same game. They didn't say like, oh, it's Dota 3 just because we changed the engine. So I don't think it's going to be called Counter-Strike 2. I mean, they might call it like 2.0, which will follow the kind of the naming convention of Counter-Strike 1.6, which is like fucking legendary. But you got to remember one thing. They can't out and out create a sequel, right? Because so much of what Counter-Strike is to casual players is the economy behind it. Knives, skins, guns, all that bullshit. And unless you've got a like-for-like representation of taking what people own and port it to a new platform, which seems like a hell of a lot of work rather than just saying, yeah, it's just an engine swap.
Yeah. But, Chris, do you know what would make that whole process so much easier? Is if Valve had just seen the future and made all those gloves and all those knives and all those skins NFTs. Then they would, you could take them to any game. You could, wear a pair of gloves in Counter-Strike in one moment, and then you're wearing it in Ghost Recon Breakpoint the next. This is the future, people, and only Dr. Disrespect can fucking see it.
But it's so funny, isn't it? Because when we had all these talks about NFTs, like I was the one who was just like super confused, saying like, isn't this just fucking what Steam does with CS:GO, except in a much better way? Like,
right, like, yeah,
because it's all on server side. It's on Gabe's personal computer that it's all working off of, not on some fucking rando's basement mother's PC. That's it's the blockchain.
I love the idea that the
entirety
of the Steam marketplace is on Gabe's personal computer, and he's just sat there watching the lights blink, and he's like, "Yes, everything's gone from my PC."
Oh yeah. And the more the numbers go up, the harder an erection he gets. Come on, it's obvious.
Can we sort of rewind a second to Jonesy's Gabe Newell impression?
It's not as good as yours, mate.
Do it again though,
because
apparently, like according to Jonesy's impression, not only has Gabe had a stroke since we last heard from him, he's also begun the process of melting slowly. Just give us a few words, Jonesy.
That was one of the treats of watching us live in our new format.
Say, take a look at my enormous knife collection.
Definitely not.
Do it, please.
No,
Okay,
no, I
fine.
refuse. I outright
Basically, it sounded
refuse.
like Jabba the Hutt.
Wow.
Which, I mean, gay Jabba.
On his boat
Sometimes.
out there in the Atlantic Ocean or Pacific.
I guess it depends on how often he visits the buffet.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true. But hey, look, Lewis's claims are backed up somewhat by NVIDIA drivers that have introduced support for 2 new unknown apps recently that were titled CSGOes2.exe and CS2.exe, which, yeah, I mean, those aren't very well hidden, like, working titles or, like, no,
Yeah.
are they? That's kind
Like-
of a giveaway.
And I guess
Yeah.
to your point, Chris, maybe the first one kind of backs you up where if it's CSGO S2, that just sounds like CSGO Source 2, which is
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
hey,
totally.
yeah.
Look, I think they could stand a rebrand. So with Dota 2, when they were on Source 1, it was fine. Then when they moved over to Source Engine 2, they just called it, like, they had a massive update. They changed the version number to a full complete number, and they called it Reborn. Dota 2 Reborn, and that was like
Right.
rather than releasing a sequel to a game, it was like, no, this is the biggest update we've ever had. You know, and they crammed like shitloads of stuff, like balance changes, characters, etc. So, like, it's entirely possible. Another thing that they said they're going to do is they're currently on 64 tick servers when they should be on 128 because the rest of competitive players on 128. But apparently they're working on something that's even better than 128 ticked servers. So who knows? I've heard rumor of tickless servers. If that rings any bells and sparks any curiosity in any of you.
But what
No,
happens if
no,
you want to give
maybe.
someone a tick? What if you want to give someone a tick
that's-
for a job well done?
That
and
is
you've got no ticks to use?
that's the most Alex Jones response we've ever had on the show so far. So good, yeah.
Yeah.
Tick.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what the fuck a tickless server is. Like, what are you talking about?
So just kind of like it, like as you're playing the game, it checks your position and how often it checks your position and
Everyone
else's, and
is it
and
kind of
gives
like
all
a
the
refresh
commands and all
rate?
that shit.
Right.
Yeah, in a way, layman's terms, from what I understand at least. And hey, my understanding is like infinitesimally higher than clearly what your guys' understanding of it is, but
it can't be any
nowhere
lower than
near.
my understanding.
Oh yeah. Like if I worked at Valve and Tickler servers came up, I would roll my desk as far away from that as possible. I'd rather work on a new Dota hero than contribute
Wow.
to the Tickler servers.
Well, there was a new Dota hero introduced last week, so
Yeah.
there you go.
Well, that's
Was it you, Jamie?
No, but that's one of the reasons I actually this is going to be interesting because this taps into a bunch of stuff that we are talking about and will be talking about. But I was listening to the Jeff Gerstmann show, which is still a bizarre standalone podcast from the former GameSpot and Giant Bomb journalist, and he was talking about Valve. I think he was talking about this story specifically. And it kind of came into a conversation because he does that show live as well, so he sometimes read comments and talking about like the whole Valve don't make games kind of idea. And they were joking about Brad Meir, who he knows because he was a friend of Giant Bomb and he used to go on that show quite a lot. But you guys will know because you've both watched at least the first half of episodes of Psych Odyssey, so we'll know him from that. Jonesy, he was the dude with the glasses who was the leader of Rhombus of Ruin for like the first few episodes, and then leaves to go to Valve. And the people in chat were joking about how Brad Meir like left Double Fine, went to Valve and hasn't made anything, and Jeff was like, no, he just worked on the latest Dota hero. So there you go.
Oh,
Brad Meir was a part of that team in some shape or form, Chris.
Okay, that's interesting.
He rolled his desk over.
He just
Man,
pushed that desk over to get away from the tickless conversation, and look what he's
What a wild fucking time. Do you ever think there's a situation where like someone doesn't want to be part of a team anymore, so they roll their desk away, but then the others really want him to stay, so they just like follow him like a pack of desks? And I like to imagine that anyone who works at Valve HQ, just no one walks. They're like stuck in their desks like crabs. And wherever they got to go, they got to like scuttle along with their whole like PC and everything. Like,
oh yeah,
it's a nice image, you know.
And people make walls of desks to actually stop people getting to other teams. So actually, there's actually a group of writers that are actually entrapped in a circle of desks, can't go anywhere, which is why no new narrative-driven games can be made at the moment. a real problem. Gabe's trying to figure it out.
they're all too introverted to say like, could you just move your fucking desk, please? I need to like go and eat something before I die. So actually, in the middle, it's all the writers, but they're just skeletons because they're all dead.
Yeah, Eric Wolpart. That's the only name I can remember at the moment. It's just a skeleton. Just I don't know.
Well, I think this is a great place to talk about some awesome individuals as we've reached the end of that. Although, I'm going to say, do you know what? I've realised my first fuck up that I've done as a live
Here we go.
broadcast.
He didn't hit the go live button.
Oh, no. I definitely hit the go live button.
Hitting ourselves.
What I didn't do was make sure that I copy the audio outputs into the other scenes that I created to show the Patreons on screen as I read them out. So when I switch over, we will be silent. However, I reckon I can do this on the fly, like a pretty cool guy.
Ooh.
Prepare your anuses because shit's about to break.
So hang on a second. In OBS, you're looking at a scene that's just a JPEG basically, and you're gonna lie. Oh, okay.
No, I can't look at I don't think I can look at a scene in OBS without making that scene the live scene. And when I click on that scene to add something to it, it's going to cut our audio because I didn't post the imports in.
Okay, hold on. I actually have OBS on here, so if I click on, it will. If you click on a scene, it will change it over. But you know what you could do? Because
I've copied my audio, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the scene, paste my audio super fast, and almost seamlessly, the audience will not know anything shit happened because they'll think that I had already set it up.
It's a bold move, Cotton. Let's.
The only thing I have realized is no one's going to be able to hear you fellas while I do the Patrons. But
I mean, we don't talk during it anyway.
Yeah, we got to be quiet anyway. It's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. Let's see if we can do this. Everyone in the who's currently watching, in live or in the future, cross your fingers with me. Okay, here we go.
Oh my god.
Okay. No, it worked. It totally worked. This is wicked. Okay, so I would like to say thank you to some of our amazing patrons. You can see some on screen right now. Jamie and Chris have just realised that I can still hear them. No, it hasn't. It's just copied mine. But I would like to say thank you to the Patrons because they are fantastic individuals who support us. You may well be joining us live or later on, but I would like to give a shout out and read out some names right now. They are Aaron Cameron, Athletic Gravy, Brimstone, Cole K, Davnat Coburn, Ice Knock Rock Salt, Jesper Camden Nielsen, Leo Merger, Mindful Pig, Mr. Anthropic, Pastors Guild, and I have to mention the big dogs as well, the members of the board. I'm talking Brett Z, aka Shellshock, Geometric Potter, Hacksaw Bookread, Manuel Guerrero, and Peaswad. Thank you so much to everybody for supporting us. Jamie and Chris are now back on the stream, so you can see them and hear them again.
The little pauses as you had to do it like card by card, I'm imagining.
I love it. It's so good.
No, yeah, you're 100%. So it was like you said, it was card by card. I had to pause, paste, make sure it was there, and then start talking.
That's fucking beautiful.
That's chef's kiss. But you know what, Jonesy, you fucking did it, man. You didn't break the internet. From what I understand, YouTube is still on. People can still watch videos. We are still live, so you fucking nailed it, mate. Well done.
You made it further than I thought we would. Like I thought something would have gone horribly, horribly wrong by now.
Thank you. Classy Cat called it as well. Said there were some slight pauses, but all good in the chat. Yes, they noticed that I was pasting my audio source before I could talk, so that's why you couldn't hear me until I did that. But no, thank you to all of our patrons. Thank you so much for supporting us week on week, for keeping the lights on. You are all fantastic.
Indeed.
Also, thank you to everyone who watches the show, who downloads the show, who gets it in any of the mediums we put out there, who likes any of the comments. Thank you. Do you know what? And a special shout out to everyone in chat right now who's joining us live. And perfect timing, Just a Guy has said, the hell is this live? Live? It is live, and you join just as we're doing a shout out. So I'm actually going to mention some of the names of people in chat. I'm not going to do this every week, but I'm going to do this now because this, one of the
special occasion. Why not?
Yeah.
So shout out to 69 DJ, to Magni, to Prima Technology. Shout out to Classy Cat, Neil D, Peter Wilson, and Ryan Green, and Just a Guy, of course, as I said. So thank you, everybody, for joining us on this live stream. If it goes well and if I don't break everything too bad, hopefully we'll be doing more of these in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
That having been said, because I have been almost dead for a couple of weeks, I've missed out on what you guys have been up to. I, of course, watched the podcast last week. Fast forwarded to the Elden Ring stuff, of course. No, I
Of
didn't.
course you did.
Oh, Jonesy, I was recording
you
that podcast
bastard.
and I still did that, just mentally because of fast forwarding.
2 times
You
speed.
bastards.
It's like, when you just tune everything out and every 30 seconds you're like, is Chris still talking? Yes, okay.
Wow.
It's like I did a bit of programming, if state. If Chris is talking about Elden Ring, then ignore everything he's saying.
Wow. Why do I come on the show? In fact, didn't I
C++.
say, Jamie, that I wasn't going to get on the show again until you played Elden Ring? So did you play Elden Ring?
Not only did I not play Elden Ring, Chris, I kept up my favourite pastime of all, which is beginning to play games that couldn't be further from Elden Ring just to annoy you. In fact, continue to play games that aren't even Psychonauts. I'm not even... I don't know what to say. I've let you down, basically.
It's not that. You've let yourself down. And more than that, I've come to a stark realization that you are no friend of mine.
Oh,
all right?
Brutal.
I mean, I'm
No,
just amazed.
no friend of mine would do this to me. So, yeah, it has taken me a long time. But, live and learn.
But then I'm just building it up. It's like a... You know how sometimes teasing, giving someone blue balls can be seen as a good thing because when they do
it's like edging. You edging yourself.
I'm edging you so that when I do finally talk about Elden Ring, your cum is gonna hit the fucking ceiling. You're gonna have a mop and you're gonna be scraping
Was it Scary Movie? Is it Scary Movie where he blasts her into the ceiling? She just gets stuck there.
Do you reckon if you don't clean that, you make cum stalactites?
Oh, I think it's very possible.
Yeah, I think.
Can you get Jamie? Listen. Hold on a second.
Here we go. I'm out of focus.
Jamie's jizzed on his cameras, and he's made it all blurry.
It's disgusting, Jamie.
It's like that game on the old Ito and PS2 when I'm cleaning windows, except you're wiping cum off a webcam.
Wow. Okay. Well, first off, can you please just fucking sort your webcam out? And not only that, your fucking headphones are the leakiest headphones that there's. So anytime that I get the audio source from you guys and I'm editing the podcast, I have to fucking put noise gates, filters, all of this shit, because all I can hear is everyone else coming out of your headphones.
Here we go, Jonesy. We figured out what's really going on at the heart of this issue. Chris has gotten bored of fat shaming. He's put that to one side. We're tech shaming now. Oh, look at this poor man with his cheap headphones and his cheap webcam. Oh, why can't he... Look, I'm doing what I can. I'm here every week. We go live. I talk about video games. I contribute, okay? Yes, I'm not in focus all the time when I do it, but I'm trying my darndest.
You are, Jamie. Also, we've got to remember that Jamie is the only one of us who actually works within the gaming industry. So it is the fault of them that he can't afford a better webcam and better headphones. So
you know what they sent me a webcam and headphones, and I just couldn't be bothered to switch them out for mine.
Wow.
Yeah, that's another level.
That's next level.
I did experiment with their webcam, and there was this weird thing where the field of view was messed up, and it was like I was zoomed 3 times further into my face, and I couldn't fix it in time for a meeting, so I just went back to my old webcam, and then that was a year ago, and yeah.
I would love to see how flustered Jamie got on a webcam on a call, like when he just started a gaming company, and it's just like this close to his face.
Oh yeah. Plus, because it being me meant I woke up probably 4 minutes before the call started and went, oh no, and then sitting at my desk in my underwear.
Oh my god, I love that.
We need to move on to the catch up to actually find out what you guys have been watching / playing / doing for the last couple of weeks. But I actually just want to mention, because someone in the comments has actually asked a question. Just a guy said, and we're not, like I said, we're not going to do this all the way through, but it is pertinent because we were talking about Elden Ring. Just a guy said, is Elden Ring really as difficult as the Souls games? That's what's been keeping me away. I feel like I'm quite well placed to answer this because I have been playing Elden Ring. And I'm not a Soulsborne player because I get so put off by those games and how hard they are. Like I am not a grinder. Someone wants to stay there and just keep doing the same thing. I found it easily the most accessible of any FromSoft game, because if you don't want to do one route or you don't want to face one boss, you can turn around, go a different direction, do something totally different, and it's so open. There's so much going on that you can sort of. It feels like you can play at your own pace. Where I never felt that before with. Any Dark Souls, Demon Souls, anything like that. So I would say it's not an easiest isn't the way to say it maybe, but it's the most accessible, I would say.
Yeah. Like I think Souls games have always had kind of like an unofficial easy mode, which would be like certain games like just use flame spells, or other games would just be like just any kind of magic. And that rings true as well for Elden Ring. Like magic is kind of OP in the game. But yeah, to what you said, Jonesy, like more so than any of the other games because of its open world nature, it's just you just get on your horse and you go somewhere else. And I think I mentioned it like maybe it was like 2 podcast episodes ago, where like I'm at level 90, I think, somewhere around there, and I haven't at no point in that run through. I haven't finished the game yet because it's just like I said last week, it's trickle gaming at this point. But at no point in my current playthrough did I have to grind or farm up. Like that was just purely just playing the game, getting stuck in places, sure, and maybe that is a form of farming and grinding in a way. But like there was no concerted effort for me to say like, right, I'm underleveled, I need to go and just do this activity over and over again for 2 hours just so I can get to a better level. Maybe I need to now. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, it's definitely the most accessible. And yeah, I think just try it. Like I think there's a reason that it sold 20 million copies, because it is a good game. People are talking about it word of mouth because fucking guess what? It is more accessible to people. People can get a lot more out of it than like say a normal Dark Souls where they just get into it and they're like, this guy fucking chumped me and there's nowhere else for me to go. So fuck it.
It just won another Game of the Year award last night at the time of, I was going to say time of recording, the time of streaming, I guess. At the Streamer Awards, which was a thing that I'm not really sure if that's going to, I guess it's not a weird thing, but it just kind of reminds me of like the early days of the Game Awards where it's one very enthusiastic individual, in our case Keeley, just being like, nah, do you know what, this shit should have its own Oscars.
Yeah. Isn't it QT Cinderella for
it's
the
QT
streamings?
Cinderella, and then she hosted it with Valkyrie.
Yeah.
Oh, wasn't QT Cinderella one of the ones who was involved in that recent
deepfake
deepfake shit?
Yeah.
She's the girlfriend of Ludwig.
Yes.
Right.
Ludvigus.
Yeah.
Mogul Moose.
He was on. I think he was interviewing people on the red carpet when I did briefly tune in. Him and Hassan were both holding
so
mics
weird.
on the red carpet.
Hassan being a streamer
and
still
Sweet
so
Anita,
weird.
the girl with the girl with Tourette's.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Sweet Anita, man. She's so funny.
All right, calm down. We are live, Alex Jones. We can't edit this out, okay? Just get.
No, I do. I like. She's genuinely
oh
like it. No, but so I used to watch TYT like all the time back in the day.
I know.
The Young Turks, and Hassan Piker was on that as because he's Cenk Uyghur's nephew, and so he used to be on there. But he was always like the commentator. He was always like a bit of a jock, like a Chad kind of guy who used to never like he knew stuff, but he would never knew as much as the other. And it was always a little bit like, why is this dude let his nephew on this news show? But he was fine. Like he became okay on the show. But then when suddenly one day he was this epic streamer, and I was like, that looks like the dude who used to be on TYT. And sure enough, it was the dude who used to be on TYT.
Yeah.
But anyway,
he seems to be doing well for himself. He was a nominee for Streamer of the Year.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't realize he was like that big, but no, that's cool, man. Yeah, fair play to him.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get back to what you boys have been doing. Not these airy-fairy streamers who barely work for a living, just going live on YouTube. What's that all about?
Yeah.
Right, let's start with... I'll tell you what, Jamie, let's start with you, because I think Chris and I are going to match up a little bit.
Yeah, sure. I mean, but it's sort of relatively timely as well on mine, because obviously the Capcom Spotlight presentation took place this last week, and whilst they were pretty upfront about the fact that no new games were going to be announced during that live stream, and indeed no new games were announced, so it didn't end up being a big deal, in terms of delivering headlines. One of the more notable things was that the Resident Evil 4, is it called like the Chainsaw demo? I don't know, the demo for Resident Evil 4.
Or Chainsaw Man demo, whatever,
Yeah, something like that. That dropped at the end of the presentation, even if it kind of had been leaked before, because a trailer for it with the end slate, the demo is available now, started running on Twitch like the day before the presentation. So people were prepared, but it's dropped, and I played it. It's not that long. It's it's the very, very opening of Resident Evil 4, which, it's the same in the remake as it was in the original. Leon arrives in this unusual town, and with some less than welcoming natives, locals, gets into a bit of an argy-bargy with some of them, and ends up in a small sort of like village location where a crazy man with a chainsaw comes out, tries to kill him amongst everyone else still trying to kill him, until a bell rings and they all walk off, and he asks if they're all going to bingo. And which all takes place in about 15 minutes in the course of this demo, and I thought it was solid. We talked about this the other week, I think. Right? I think it was you and me, Chris, about how there isn't a huge amount to be concerned with here when it comes to the track record, I guess, for want of a better way of putting it, of Capcom's internal teams when it comes to remaking their own properties. And certainly Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 remakes were very well received for the most part, with the exception around some questions around 3 and cut content, I guess. But 4 seems to be heading very much in the right direction. It's a little bit more action-oriented, which makes sense because Resident Evil 4 obviously was, compared to 2 and 3 especially. And so there are some changes that make a little bit more sense in that department. Like there's like a parry now where you can sort of, if you time it perfectly, you can essentially deflect certain moves. A lot of which uses your knife, which still has durability, which is going to be interesting, but I'm not totally against that. There's some other changes, like just little things, how, your knife, rather than being a thing that you have to equip and then aim and then slash, if you just tap the right trigger, Leon will just sort of slash in front of him. So there are certain changes.
Like wildly,
yeah, kind of. He doesn't cover his eyes like that, but
I think he should, man.
Maybe he should. That would be funny. It was
bring realism back to games, right? Cover the eyes.
That more sounds like a MacGruber technique. Like that's the way MacGruber would flare the knife, and then take his arm away and open his eyes, and he's killed everyone in the room somehow. But it felt good. It felt appropriately tense and sort of I don't know, unusual, I guess, otherworldly. There's something about Resident Evil 4's tone and Resident Evil 4's atmosphere that to me isn't as scary as other recent Resident Evils. I don't know if that's because the villagers and their disease nature. Is it Las Plagas? I forget.
Las Plagas.
It's just not as inherently scary as outright zombies to me and the T-virus. I don't know why. And also because anyone who knows Resident Evil 4, especially as later characters are revealed and some of those conversations start to happen, the tone is borderline comedic at times. I mean, we joked about the bingo line already, but that is the tone throughout in the dialogue, in the way these characters converse. One-liners are some of the stupidest shit you'll ever hear, and I hope some of that is maintained. But yeah, I'm excited.
With the movements and everything, what I remember seeing that concerned me from some of the trailers, which like seemingly some snappiness to some of the animations, like almost like, you're in the wrong place, so you got to snap into the right place to continue this movement. Did you feel any of that?
I don't know if that's just because I'm sort of like potentially used to it, because for as much as Resident Evil still scares the pants off me, I've played more recent Resident Evil games than not, in terms of the sort of the release pattern they've been on. So I don't know if I'm just kind of blind to that stuff. I didn't notice anything jarring though. I'm sure there's definitely a bit of that, especially because obviously it's still got the kind of mechanic where you can shoot someone either like in the knee or sometimes even just in the head in such a way where they can get into a kind of vulnerable state, and you can close the distance. They get a little arrow above their head and you can do a roundhouse kick, and that's good at sort of not just ammo preservation but also sometimes clearing large groups of enemies, because that roundhouse kick can hit anyone who gets in its way. And there's sometimes a feeling of like, okay, I'm being kind of snapped into position to make sure I can get this animation off. But it's like it was nothing troublesome. I felt, and it's like this thing that most people are going to be totally fine with what Resident Evil 4 is putting down, and that it's far in some ways quite far from being one-to-one in terms of its environments. Like anyone super familiar with the first house that Leon goes, the first time you sort of properly get control of Leon, and like that opening encounter feels very different in this, but everything has been expanded upon or changed for a reason that feels like it kind of makes sense. So I could see this going down very well when reviews drop, probably sometime in the next week. I think this will be as well received as Resi 2 and 3 were.
Wait.
The exception being that it's just a much bigger, much longer, much more different game, much more action oriented, which I like.
When's the release?
Whoa, 21st. I don't know. Is it when?
So soon.
Yeah,
This
it's
month,
soon. I
yeah.
think I want to say the 21st, but I might be wrong. It could be the 17th. I can't remember.
Where's the inflection point where
24th.
where Resi goes from being good games that deserve remakes to being shit games that they should by no means remake because they're terrible.
Probably Resi 5. Not that it's a bad game, but just that they shouldn't remake it. Probably.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I
I
think
don't
they've
know.
reached the point where like I don't think you go any more modern than Resident Evil 4. Like some people were pretty adamant that Resident Evil 4 didn't need a remake. I think they'll justify this one's existence, but
Yeah.
I
I think like a Code Veronica would be on the cards, but I think that's probably where you stop it, right?
Yeah, I don't know anything about Code Veronica, but I know people mention it now. I don't know if they're mentioning it because they want to, or if it's because the last place that this series can logically go in terms of these remakes that have had a pretty consistent release schedule now for a handful of years. But
I think it's both for the fan base. But yeah, and then as we joked before, like you get onto the Dino crises and
yes,
blah, blah,
right,
blah,
yeah,
blah, blah.
What's interesting though is, I mean, they've totally got the option that if they wanted, they could keep making the remakes, but actually go off on a tangent and try and sort of fix what was broken in the past. Which is, I suppose, if they still sell well and if they're still doing well, do you reckon there's any chance they do that, or do you think that they just say we're done with these this kind of?
I mean, I it's going to sound really weird, but I can see them going back to Resident Evil 1.
Oh, interesting.
As like a reimagining, because the HD remaster that they had of Resi 1 was, unless I'm mistaken, it was like a pretty faithful one-to-one kind of thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't like Resident Evil 2 remake was the one where they said, oh, okay, we can kind of like rejig things and we can make it its own kind of experience.
Yeah.
And I can see them maybe going back to Resi 1 as like a completely fresh reimagining of the series.
Yeah, potentially. I think it'd be interesting to see how they expand on Resi 1, right? And how they expand on those environments and kind of, but like make it feel like a more living, breathing place that deserves to be explored. Like, I don't know, there's like a claustrophobic element in my mind to Resident Evil 1 that feels weird when I imagine like a over the shoulder, third person perspective. But it makes more sense than, like, you're talking about, like, Jonesy, like, I mean, you didn't say as much, but I'm guessing you're talking about, like, potentially, quote unquote, fixing some of the things that people didn't like about Resident Evil 5 or 6. But I think in those cases, like, that's not a remake at that point. Because,
no, it's not. It's a totally new thing.
Yeah.
Because those games, I think, like, in some respects, were sort of, like, fundamentally opposed to what people wanted
I've just realised what Jonesy's suggested here.
What?
Like, go on.
Resident Evil 9.
I mean, yeah.
It's just another Resident Evil.
Well, yeah, but I suppose it's almost like going back in time in an IP or a franchise to then just branch off in another, which obviously happens. Like, other people have done that with other franchises. Like, it wouldn't be the first time someone went back and went, do you know what? Just forget about all that shit that we did there. We're trying to fix what was broken. But so
Mortal
then they can
Kombat
actually
kind of did that, right?
Sorry?
Mortal Kombat kind of did that, right? Where like MK9 was just called Mortal Kombat, and it was like we're just gonna reset the timeline and sort of start again, basically. And then
they did it again with the latest one. What's it, 11?
Yeah, they did a thing where like Mortal Kombat 9 started a new timeline, right? But then the other timeline didn't stop existing or something, and so now there are like interweaving timelines and different people from different versions of those games, and they've all got kids and.
Well, they're soft doing it with Modern Warfare, like the way that they're kind of like, no, it's Faith, but and you wonder where that's going to go. Is that going to go on its own little? That didn't actually follow, and then
I don't think that was a soft relaunch at all. I think that was a completely full on.
But I want to say it still fits,
change.
doesn't it? It still fits with the original events, doesn't it? Like if you could almost put the two together.
Kind of. I funny enough, Jonesy, I think that what you're suggesting for Resident Evil is probably what they did for Modern Warfare, where it's like they just took the same story beats in a way, but different kind of like aspects of it and rejigged it and modernized it, updated it, etc.
Yeah. To be fair, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they. And then you'd end up with two like concurrent Resident Evil series where you've got Resident Evil 9, 10, 11 as you're going on in the future, but then you've also got like 5, 6, 7, which is a brand new thing, which is going and they diverge, and it's like what was their
It's
thing
like
they had
the
in-
B-sides of gaming.
yeah, but it's almost like they had with the whole Marvel thing when they said, "Oh no," and you're like, "What? Hold on, what universe are we in? Are we even in the same place anymore? Have we now gone on a complete goddamn tangent?" It just gets so confusing.
DC will be doing that soon, right? Where like it will have like the remnants of the old DCU, then James Gunn's new stuff, then the standalone stuff like Joker.
Yeah, but it wasn't like the Flash film. The point where they just say, "Oh yeah, this is where we can kind of just get rid of the old shit and just focus on the new shit."
That's the rumor, right? Is that they're going to use the Flash as the way to kind of like get rid of Gal Gadot and all of that lot, and Henry Cavill, and allow that stuff to breathe again.
Oh, this would be such a good segue, but I'm gonna have to like go back to talking catch-up stuff, and then I'll make an excuse to come back round to this conversation.
There we go.
But Jamie, what else have you been playing?
So Resident 4, I think Resident 4 will hit the spot. I mean, that's like an all-time classic game, and I think they're doing right by it from everything that I've seen in my brief 15 minutes. The only other thing I'll mention is that I finished Resident Evil 4. I finished the demo, I should say, and immediately was like, "Oh, should I play the demo again?" Because that was quite fun. And I said, "Hang on a second, I'm really being an idiot here. I own Resident Evil Village, and I have let my fear of playing that game stop me from doing so for over a year, comfortably over a year at this point." And so I got over it, and I got over myself, and I started playing Resident Evil Village, aided by the third-person mode that they added in that DLC from the end of last year, because I find it a bit less scary, and I'm getting through it. It's tough. I have jumped. There are some like fundamentally, I don't find.
Did you have one of those moments that the clutch of heart?
Is that still out there? Does that still exist?
Copper. I mean, I've got it.
You've got it somewhere,
we've got it.
Yeah, we've got it. I've got it on a hard drive. For sure.
In case anyone didn't see it in chat, or who's listening later on, there's a great shot where we were all playing Resident Evil. Which Resident Evil was it? Was it
7?
7. And Jamie jumped so hard he clutched his head and his heart at the same time, probably to make sure they were both still in his body.
And then he said he started tasting copper. I'm sure he had a heart attack. Like something about that tasting copper is like.
The taste of copper was there were 2 separate occasions in that office building where I got a jumps or a fright so big that I tasted copper. One of them I cannot talk about on this podcast, but the other was Resident Evil 7.
That's an after dark. I want to hear that story.
Why can't you talk about it?
Oh, because it involves people that we used to work with, and it's a filth story.
Of course, it's a filth story.
Oh, that one. Okay.
But yeah,
I think I can guess, but I'm not going to say.
You probably can, but like we don't need to.
No, let's not.
Need to elaborate on that anymore, because Resident Evil Village hasn't given me a single fright as big as Resident Evil 7 did, and which is weird because there is a cat and mouse sequence in Resident Evil Village, featuring, of course, Lady Dimitrescu, but it's over far quicker than I remember anything in Resident Evil 7. I remember just even when I tried to play it on my own at times, like crouch walking through corridors and having to do those like VHS tapes and just not knowing where Jack Baker was. And Resident Evil Village I don't know if that's because there's something inherently less frightening about a 9-foot-tall vampire lady with claws, but yeah.
Yeah, no one was scared of her. Everyone wanted her to step on them and bang them senseless. So that's
right.
It's not,
and also the same. Resident Evil Village is so ridiculous and so over the top that a lot of the would-be horror and tension of that game gets sucked out of it by its own protagonist and the ridiculous scenarios he finds himself in, and the ridiculous, again, talking about Leon Kennedy, one-liners he comes up with, like when you get to the point where Ethan Winter's entire arm gets cut off at like just above the wrist, let's say 2 inches above the wrist, and he puts it back on, pours first aid liquid on it, this in a cutscene, and it reattaches to the point where like his coat gets stitched back together, and you're like, what are we doing here, folks? Okay.
You're right though, because like in Resident Evil 7, obviously it had like proper fantastical kind of elements, especially with the mother being the fucking bug lady, but for the most part, like, it did feel fairly grounded. Like Jack Baker was just like this dude who just was like unrelenting, just kind of like the T-2000, like just kept
Yeah.
coming after you, right? And then the sun had like all these traps and everything, and it was just like it just felt a lot more grounded, but
Yes.
creepy. And
Did
then it went
because
like,
I
kind
remember
of-
like you could blow his face apart and like kill people, and then they just came back
Oh,
zombie
like-
style, and it
Yeah,
wasn't
but
that
there's a-
grounded. It wasn't.
but it's
you-
not over the top though, which is what Jamie was saying. Like
Right,
it's not
yeah,
I
like, oh,
get
this
it,
dude
I
turns
get it.
into a fucking werewolf and there's a 9-foot vampire lady, and like it wasn't that.
Like-
It was a more towards grounded than not.
I
Well,
almost feel like
well,
you have zombie, like what he's like zombie, so you can like blow his face off with a shotgun, and then his face comes back, and then he like still attacks you, and then you've got vampires and you've got werewolves. I almost feel like feels more grounded just because it was that side of it. It was like the zombie side of it or whatever, rather than I don't necessarily think it is actually that.
Yeah, I think you're going to a series like Resident Evil with zombies already a given,
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
as soon as you go further, then it's like, well, that's weird, you know.
But
Yeah.
I kind of feel
But
like they can all occupy the same level of weird.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
the-
but
like
it's
Village-
just different though.
Yeah,
Like Village doesn't even really have traditional zombies. Like the most
Right.
common fodder enemy in that game are lichens, which again is just
okay.
adds to that sort of otherworldly element. Like the last thing I did, which was the scariest thing of the game so far, was I went into House Beneviento, which is basically like where this weird doll maker kind of person lives.
Oh yeah, that shit
And-
was creepy.
Yeah, there's a I won't say spoil like what happens, but there's a sort of implied to be a hallucinogenic sequence involving a particular foe that it's not cat and mouse in the same way like Baker or Dimitrescu are, but it is sort of like stay away from this thing, and that kind of fucked me up at times. That was one of those. Again, I didn't clutch my heart and I didn't taste copper, but
Fair enough.
scary video game. Yeah, that's me though.
CJ, we have been watching the same thing.
Yes,
Catch
Psych
up on it.
Odyssey. Yeah,
Let
but I
me-
think you finished it, right? I'm still kind of more than midway, but I'm getting there.
I have finished it. You are much more of a Psychonauts fan than me. You have been for a lot longer. I am keen to know what your thoughts are so far. Just as a little background, let me just say for anyone who doesn't know, Psych Odyssey is the documentary series that Double Fine's in-house production company, 2-player productions, I believe they're called,
Yeah.
have been recording stuff with them for years and years, numerous different things. And Psych Odyssey covers the entirety of Psychonauts 2 and sort of coming to fruition, being made, and is available from a month ago. I think it was made available on YouTube as a 32-part
Yeah.
documentary series. So yeah, no, Chris, hit us. What are your thoughts so far?
It's good, man, but like you got to be aware you're watching the sausage being made, right? Like in a lot of these episodes at the very beginning, it says like, beware, there are spoilers for Psychonauts 2. And I guess it's interesting because I'm coming at it from a different perspective as you guys, and I'm interested in kind of your perspective on it, but we'll only really find out once you actually play the game. But for me, it's very much a case of like, oh shit, yeah, I remember playing that sequence, and oh, okay, it's good to know the iteration and the thought sequence that they were going through to get there. Especially when things change so drastically, where you're like, oh, well, I could have been playing that version, but actually, and sometimes you think to yourself like, oh, that version sounds sick, but you know that if they just couldn't get it to work in a way that felt good, like you almost have to kind of like, you give them that, you say, well, you are the fucking auteurs here, like you're fucking doing the best job you can do, you know what's right. And it's not like I'd look back at those levels and say like, oh, I wish I could have played that. It's an interesting journey that you go along with them. But lots has been said about it, obviously being a nice kind of understanding of the game development process. But for me, I think especially it's that shining that spotlight on the creative process, which obviously we are all very well aware of, being in our positions. But yeah, definitely been making me feel down watching it, actually. I think you nailed it, Jonesy, when in our group chat where you're like, it reminds us of the previous company that we had all worked together, like how that feeling of being this like tight-knit unit within this like other segment where we've got other people influencing us and we're kind of trying to do our own thing. And yeah, it definitely made me nostalgic. Definitely kind of made me feel down a bit because one of those things where you see these like incredible people do these incredible and incredibly creative things, and being allowed to do them in such a way that you just kind of feel inadequate in yourself and the things that you do. At least for me. It's like I said, like sometimes I watch a movie and I'm like, that film was fucking amazing, and now I don't ever want to create content ever again. It's kind of the same kind of feeling. Like, just kind of, it's put me in a very weird headspace. Also, a separate weird headspace. So I know it's sounding a lot of negativity here, but for good reason, I guess. The other negative headspace is because it's so expansive on what it's doing. I'm most definitely watching it at 2 times speed, and it is most definitely having an adverse effect on rewiring my brain and just being impatient in my life. It's just like, come on, quicker, yes, get to the point. I want to understand what you're saying. Just speak quicker. Why are you talking so slow? It's like, if you ever watch, just go do this. Just go watch like 5 things on YouTube, and they don't have to be long. They could be 10 minutes long each, but just make sure they're different creators, and watch it at 2 times speed, and then go back to that first creator that you watched and watch it at 1 time speed, normal speed.
Oh, it sounds like they're speaking slowly. It does. It's like...
No, it sounds like they have fucking brain damage, Alex Jones.
Yeah.
It's like, it sounds like they're slurring their words, like they are slow, they're dumb, they don't know what they're talking about, but it's not true. It's just I've rewired my brain like an idiot.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But yeah, so a lot of emotions coming out for me, but I'm enjoying it, I guess. I'm almost finished.
So, because
yeah.
I've obviously watched it as well. Like I started watching it after you, but because I wasn't very well for a week, and when I'm not well, I just tend to like feel sorry for myself and just watch shitloads of stuff and not move. And so this was the perfect thing, and I started watching it and was absolutely hooked. And like it, so I don't want to compare what we were doing to like what Double Fine have done. When we were at All Time Gaming and part of the All Time family and working in those jobs, we were sort of like obviously it was a very different feel, but there was definitely an overlap in how I viewed how Double Fine worked, things they went through, the daily trials and tribulations, and how it was for us being like working on like at the time very big YouTube channels and sort of working with other people, and how we had sort of like crazy parties and like sort of weird, cool stuff was going on, and you got to meet cool people and go to cool things. I definitely had that part of it. No, as you've said, it made me want to do more stuff. It didn't put me off doing stuff. It made me want to do a lot more. The thing that I truly found absolutely amazing that I didn't know, I suppose I knew, but I had never appreciated, was just how much goes into planning, making, and putting out like a game. And it's not, so this is the thing, like I knew how to make games. I've watched stuff before about how to make games. I know, I've done tutorials and I've tried making games. I know all the steps, but I think when you actually see people doing it on a daily basis and how long it takes them to do like one level, and then the same level gets taken apart, readers, like there's one level in that documentary. I think it's the, I can't remember the guy's name, the Viking dude.
Yeah, Helmet.
His level was redone like 4 or 5 times, and like multiple teams had to do this level. And what strikes me about that is that there are levels that you get to see in that documentary series that no one will ever see in real world, because they were envisaged, they were planned, they had all these ideas and these stories white boxed.
Yeah.
So much of it was done, but then they were like, okay, this doesn't work, this is never happening. And it almost makes me like lament what the stuff that was never made, because I'm like, oh, I want to play that so badly. One thing it definitely did to me was when I started playing Psychonauts 2 again, which I have done relatively recently. Originally, when I played Psychonauts 2, I was like, oh yeah, this game's cool. I like what they've done, but it looks kind of a bit old school. Like it doesn't, it doesn't look as amazing as I thought it would. Maybe I won't like get too into this game. When I started playing it again, I was like, oh my god, this game looks absolutely phenomenal. I love it. I can't wait to get into all these levels. My appreciation for where the headspace of the developers was has massively leveled up my appreciation for the game. I think because rather than go into it with a sense of like, oh, it's just a game that they threw together and to do some platforming, you got to see how painstakingly they developed the ideas, the concepts, how they were going to do stuff, how the levels.
Wait, so did you jump into the game then?
So I started playing it a while ago, like a couple months ago. And I think I
Okay.
played it for about an hour. I didn't get that far in at all.
Yeah.
And then I played about literally half an hour since is the only chance I've had. But just getting to walk around that hub section, like when you're at the Psychonauts actual hub place. Now that, because they talk about it so much and how complex it is and how, you know, they want to do this and they want to do that, then appreciating that again, and you can actually see the love and the care and the pain and the time that it's taken people to do it. And what a phenomenal documentary series. Like, absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
There was a dude in it who reminded me a bit of Jamie, I'm going to say.
I know exactly which one
you're talking about. James.
Okay, I won't. And then I won't mention who it is.
Oh, for goodness sake.
No, but to this, in the sense of, there was a cut, not like you weren't like him really, but there was a weird. So he started off like really because like you're saying, the thing about like all time gaming and all time in general and those channels, the way that, because he starts out as like an associate and he's like a really young.
His story is that he's hired as a level designer, but he's never made a 3D
an associate. Yeah, he's an associate level designer,
and he's never worked on a 3D game in his life before.
A 3D platformer. He's never made
3D platformers. Right.
And he goes from associate to being like pretty far, like pretty high, like a level designer who's great at doing this. And it was because when Chris and I used to work like for the company we were at, and then Jamie came in as this fresh-faced young guy who hadn't done any of that stuff before, and we'd been around the block for a while, and then Jamie leveled up and became, it was, there's just the arc. His arc, Jamie, was little.
It was a nice arc. I have an arc for you fellas, which is going to be absolutely fucking perfect timing, seeing as this is our first live show, but my battery's about to run out on my laptop, so I'm gonna go and get my charger. So I'm gonna have to shoot off for a few minutes, and then I'll be back.
Everyone's gonna get a little treat to your holding image.
Oh,
you're away. Oh no!
Lovely. All right.
Wait, no. Is it going to make you leave the call, Chris? Because then our boxes are going to move around.
No, I'm not going to leave the call. I'm gonna mute and I'm gonna go get my thing and I'm gonna do it right now. And it starts now.
See, I don't mind the James comparison, I guess, if it's based on sort of like the idea of someone coming in young and green and eventually slowly kind of being able to find their feet at a company. I didn't relate to I guess I didn't relate to his character or his personality.
No, you weren't like him as a person, but it was the way that he came in like that, and then he became like this well-rounded and like mainstay of the whole team, even though he was. I was like, it's a little bit like Jamie's arc when we used to work on make YouTube videos, because you came in as I can't think what did you start off as?
I was just the runner. Runner, but I was the one who went and bought the fruit in the morning and did all that kind of stuff. Made sure there was ink in the printer.
Actually, maybe you'd be more like, is his name Asif, the cameraman?
The Asif story was very cool.
That was really cool. I actually wanted to look up and see if he's still working in video games now.
So 2-player productions, both Asif and due to it entirely behind the scenes, have done a number of interviews about the documentary since it launched. So there's one on MinMax and there's one on NoClip, which are just sit down interviews, like an hour to 2 hours, talking to Asif and two of the other fellows from 2-player, talking about the process of like, hey, how do you shoot for that long? Everything from how do you store that much, footage on like a server and stuff like that, and how do you approach editing a thing like that. So, that stuff's out there if you want to watch it. But
I'm back.
Hey, there he is. And Asif's story is also totally relatable, because like the idea that, like, if we were working there, but like, let's say we were working for 2-player productions and we were a cameraman and stuff like that, all three of us, I'm sure, would absolutely pitch for Amnesia Fortnite. And like, because that's everyone's dream. It's such a cool idea, and to like the idea that you know how, again, I don't know if this is spoilers or not, but like how emotional Asif is at the end of the first Amnesia Fortnite, because he was like, this might be the only time I ever get to work on games, and obviously knowing where his story like might end up going.
I won't ruin it for Chris, but there's that is a cool. His arc is actually very cool as well. Let me just do a little bit of fan service, because we had someone asking where they can actually see the documentary. It is free to watch if you go to Double Fine's YouTube channel, Double Fine Prod, you can watch all 32 episodes, and they vary from like some are 20 minutes, some are like an hour and a half. It just depends on like the content of the episode is like self-contained. So there are 32 episodes in total. Someone asked as well if it's anything like the Raising Kratos documentary, but I haven't seen that, so I can't comment.
You haven't seen the Raising Kratos?
No, I haven't seen it.
It is that, but if you take Raising Kratos and extrapolate it to 32 episodes, like
right.
Yeah, like exactly. And like a lot, like, you know, like the intimacy of Raising Kratos, like there's that one bit where they're asking the two, I remember one of them is called Yumi Yang, but the two female like kind of producer leads about the producers about the impact it's had on their personal lives. And Yumi Yang answers first, and she's like, well, I'm lucky to have a very supportive family, and blah, blah, blah. And it cuts to the other woman, and she's Shannon something, I think, or Sharon something, and she goes, I'd rather not answer that question right now, as she's tearing up. And you're like, Jesus Christ. Double Fine is like, take that moment, and like Double Fine sometimes feels like it has one of those every episode.
Yeah, like they're not, but that's what's nice about well, it's not nice, but that's what's good about the documentaries. They don't shy away from, like, it really is warts and all for something that's done by partially an internal production, to kind of put that lens on themselves and saying like, yeah, like this is us, warts and all, like it's not perfect. It's just refreshing is what it is. It's such a good documentary.
They do a really good job of given that they are in-house, they do a really good job of making sure they ask tough questions and then get into it. Like they talk about crunch culture, they talk about why people leave, they talk about why people let go, and they do delve into some of those sort of quite difficult topics. And it's one thing that did for me that is a bit of a service, and I'm not excusing it at all, but there's a weird thing with crunch, and I sometimes feel like, and this could absolutely be the case in a lot of big companies, is that crunch is something which is very top down and basically like a way to abuse staff effectively. But we've all crunched in companies that we've worked for. We've crunched damn hard, like, you know, in multiple ways. We were at E3 one year where Jamie and I were literally working every hour under the sun to get videos out on time. The nature of the crunch in what we do is different because we crunch for like brief periods of time. To be fair, well, we've worked with people channels where they crunch every week on a Thursday and a Friday because they have to get stuff ready for the weekend. It's not the same because it's not this extended period of, you know, like months and months or up to like a year of working insane hours. But it did make me feel a little bit more sympathetic towards the higher ups who are trying to get an artistic thing done and made and dealing with everything that goes with that, and how they try and manage that is fucking hard.
Yeah, it's complex, right? Because there's your staff you got to think of. There's also like any stakeholders at play. There's deadlines. There's this, that, the other. There's a lot of pressure coming from everywhere. But it's funny that you said like that. Obviously, yes, we have had our crunch, but from
that's not to say crunch. It's not to say crunch is good or okay. I'm just saying like it's a thing that I think every industry has it to some degree in different ways.
But like I think you guys would probably agree that like watching this documentary kind of makes you self-reflect on the times that we had to go through crunch, etc. And yes, we had some serious times of crunch. We also had some serious lax days where we have like 2-hour lunches, what have you. But like you say we never had extended periods of crunch, but like fuck man, I remember like especially maybe that last year of ATG, like I fucking hell, we were working like 10 to 10 every single day for like that year.
Right.
It was hard, man. It was hard trying to like turn around our fortunes in a way. And Jamie, you were there with me, man. Like
I was, yeah. It's weird, like this is something the documentary gets into. Like different people respond to crunch in different ways, and one of the things that that companies do, sometimes intentionally and sometimes inadvertently, and sometimes it's not even the company's fault; it's the individual's fault. But when you allow people to take some kind of ownership or care over a project, then they take responsibility upon themselves to do it, and they crunch because they want to. And that's something that's a struggle within Double Fine, where like there are employees there. They're like, no, this is the company I've worked at my whole life. This is my reputation. I want this game to be the best fucking game it is. So I'm going to work 14 hours a day, and you can't tell me I can't. And Tim Schafer's like, you're right. I can't tell you I can't. And we were in that situation with ATG, where it's like, we wanted ATG to be good. We wanted ATG to be as best as it could be. At that point in time, we wanted it to bounce back as strong as it could. We also did have financial incentives, and so that muddies the waters. But it's also that weird thing of like, we worked in an industry where success was could be appraised unless you were growing something. When something was established, continuing success could be appraised in like a relatively short-term basis, because the revenue you were generating was the revenue you were generating, right? And video games are somewhat different, where it's like, no, we've only got enough money to develop this game for another year, and like, we have no real opportunities to make more money in that time. What we're doing is asking people to trust that we're making something good, and the idea that
you're
those
just burning
people,
down, right?
yeah, and seeing some of those people looking down the barrel of the lens and being like, we've got a year until this. I'm already crunching. We've got a year to finish this, and I don't know if it's enough time. That's a head fuck for me as someone that has never worked on a thing that's taken more than like a handful of weeks, you know?
Yeah. I'd say one. I remember a situation that really did make it. Not that it's not the same that happened in like documentary, but I always remember when we were already working overtime every day to get shit done, and it felt like, oh my god, this is horrendous. I can't be doing like overtime constantly every single day. And then our MD sat us down and said, like, realistically, guys, everyone needs to be working overtime every day, otherwise I don't see the company like lasting. And everyone looking around to each other and being like, hold on, does he not know that we fucking do this every day already? And just like, your heart drops. It's because not only are you working your ass off, you realize that there is no appreciation for the fact that you're doing it, and that they think that you get there on time, leave on time, and have all and it's just horrible. That's horrible. Because one thing I think did come out of like this documentary for me was, and you've just mentioned it, Jamie, there is a weird thing where someone will say, if you can't stop me from working a 14-hour day if I want to get something good out the door, which is absolutely, I completely understand that perspective.
Like Jason Schreier mentions that in like almost all of his Crunch articles, right? Is that like, some people were so proud to work at Rockstar and so invested in making sure Rockstar continued to be Rockstar that they volunteered 100-hour weeks to make sure it happened, you know?
Yes, but then there's also, and then you can say, well, but I'm not telling you that you have to do that, so you can just do your allotted hours. But then there's almost like an implicit way of saying that means you don't care about getting a quality product out the door, which is that's the entire problem right there. Is the whole point is that, you know, games should
or even just a case of like, oh well, you know, Jamie and Jonesy, you're both working on this project, but you know what, Jamie fucked off at 6 and Jonesy, you worked until 8, so you know, I know who's really into this. You know, there's that way of looking at things. Or even if it's just between yourselves, it could be a case of like Jamie leaving at 6 and saying like, fuck, you know what, actually Jonesy's putting in 2 more hours. I better fucking kick it up. And the manager's got nothing to do with it. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's so many things at play. And like, I think for my part, like being reflective on it, like I feel really bad actually that we did those like 12-hour days consistently. I do. I feel really, really fucking bad about it. But at the time, it was like, well, this is normal. We're all passionate about it. And you know, I was like, I'm not forcing anyone to do this, but we're doing it, and we're doing it together. And it's like, we're all in this together. But
at the time, that's what had to be done to get the thing made.
Yeah,
but, like, it's almost like a foregone conclusion of that's what you're going to do.
But that's also the problem, I think. And like, you know, we weren't in a position like Double Fine, where there's a finite amount of money that's ticking down along with the clock that's ticking down. We were almost like just ticking up to get the next product out and the next product out. And our only schedule was self-inflicted in a large amount of way. You know, but I think another part of the problem is that there needs to be someone that kind of takes the gun and shoots themselves in the foot to get people to just stop. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that is a weird thing, because if you look at, I think Cloud Imperium Games and Star Citizen is a great example of what happens when creatives get to just run and run and run and run, and there is no deadline, and you're just like, that is like, can't just go on forever, can it? Sometimes you've got to put a date. You've got to have a date that you get something out.
Yeah.
But I mean, and sorry, Jamie, go on.
I was going to say, I learned as a freelancer now, like, when I had talked to people on my team, I'm like, I need a date. You need to tell me when you want to see this, otherwise you won't. Like, I need it.
Yeah.
And sometimes
And that might mean me like fucking working 16 hours on the final day because I'm an absolute fuck up. But I am. But I still, it's the only way it's going to get done.
And sometimes, and the one thing you can always do if you have a date and you really, really need to, you can always delay if you really, really need to. And do you know someone who's delayed recently, guys? It is Warner Brothers and Rocksteady, because Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League has got its second delay. It was supposed to be coming out May 26th, and it's now been pushed back till, we don't have a date, but it's been pushed back till later this year. Jason Schreier, reporting for Bloomberg, sort of got the scoop and said that a source who knows, who is someone in the know, told him that the game is been pushed probably because of the lackluster reception that it had to the co-op gameplay that we got to see last week as part of the PlayStation State of Play. Surprised? Unsurprised?
I don't mind going first and just saying, in a word, like, yes, I am surprised. Not because I don't think this is necessary, and not because I don't think like important work could be done, depending on the time frame they give themselves, or like there's any number of reasons why this could have happened, and I don't know how to phrase it. It's like I'm not surprised it's happened, but yes, I'm surprised it's happened. In that, like, if you'd asked me,
I guess they lead up with everything they got, right?
Right. I just didn't think that they would bother. Yeah, I don't know. I just didn't think this would happen, I guess is what I'm saying. I wouldn't have put my money where my mouth was on a prediction like this if you'd asked me when we were recording last week's podcast.
Yeah, stuff. Yeah.
Chris, before I get your input, can I give you a quote from Jason Schreier on Twitter? He said, "For what it's worth, a delay like this is mainly for polish, not to overhaul the core gameplay that caused the backlash. Suicide Squad started off as a game as a service and will remain one short of a complete reboot, which would require a much longer delay."
Yeah, and I think that's a completely fair assessment. But like Jamie says, like I think the journey of the release, the announcement of this game, and all the different like trailers that they've been having, and then for it to culminate in a state of play where it was one of two things of that state of play that were worth writing home about, and then a week later to just kind of turn around and say like, oh yeah, actually it's been delayed. I think Jamie's right. Like that's where the surprise comes in. But I wonder if a part of this isn't a bit of panic in terms of not necessarily polish, but perception. So, you know, we covered it the last time when we were talking about the developer kind of rundown that they gave, and they showed all the menus, and the menus had like, oh, there's a social tab and a battle pass tab and a this tab and a that tab. And I wonder if it's a case of them saying like, look, the game isn't what you think it is, and now we're going to rejig the parts, remachine it slightly so that it doesn't seem like it is what you think it is. I wonder if there's something like that going on, because I always got the sense that what people were angry about the game wasn't necessarily a problem with the game. Right?
Well, I think there were two parts. Like, there was the part that you were talking about where like that image of the menu and all the tabs and the games as a service direction. But I think there was also an element that we touched on last week that some people were angry about the potentially generic nature of the gameplay, and that it had been transformed into a sort of co-op third-person shooter. And like, here's a dude whose fucking name is Captain Boomerang, and he's jumping around using the same assault rifle that Harley Quinn could have just picked up.
But that's not going to be fixed in this amount of time.
And that's what makes it so fascinating, though, right? Is that it's like we said on WhatsApp when we were chatting, and then Jason Schreier said immediately afterwards, like 6 months, if that's what this is, isn't enough time to redo anything, and it might only just be enough time to tap into what you were talking about, Chris, which is like reframe people's sort of like the optics of this game and the parts of it you're supposedly pushing. Like, you know, we talked about in our group chat the possibility that they go silent for as long as they possibly can, and when they come back, they make sure explicitly to not show that menu anymore. They don't talk about live service elements. They don't talk about the battle pass. They literally, every trailer or gameplay preview, whatever that's still to come, focuses strictly on like the core narrative of the game, or the whatever sort of story style experience they've crafted. But even that, I don't know if that's enough. Which makes this fascinating.
So do you think?
Can I tell you what they need to do?
Yeah, go for it.
You've got Judge.
What
they need to do?
Let me just give you a quick. So I was going to say, I was going to ask the question. So do you think, because the State of Play effectively confirmed that the game's going to be a live service game with a battle pass and an RPG style gear system? Do you think that being like, this is what this game is the thing that's made fans go, wait, what? And
it's like Jamie said. I think that's a part of it. That's like half that one side of the coin, and that's the one side of the coin that you're not going to fix in 6 months' time.
Yeah, that's the bones of this game. Like
to Jamie's point, though, that seems really strange to me to say, hey, it is that. We can't fix that in 6 months. So I know what we're going to do. We just won't talk about it. And then when it comes out, we'll hope everyone kind of forgot, buys it, and then just accepts it.
It's kind of what I said in the previous podcast, right? Like at its core, at least for me, I don't have a problem with the battle pass. I don't have a problem with RPG elements. I don't have a problem with with loot. But what I do have a problem with is how certain games, not necessarily this game, but how certain games implement it. Like I said, I don't like a gear score. Okay? So you can imagine that if they get a lot of pushback for a gear score, what they're going to do is they take gear score out, they keep those values to individual pieces of equipment, and it's just like, yeah, we'll just fucking figure it out yourself. You don't need everything distilled down to one fucking number that you're consistently chasing. Like, that's an example, not saying that that's what they would do, but that's an example of something that you do. You clean up the user interface. You maybe put less of an emphasis on the battle pass. Maybe you merge some of those tabs, and, you just present a different way of seeing the game. I think there's ways of having systems being presented in ways that rub people up the wrong way, even though they don't actually mind the system itself at its core. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think it's something like that personally, but who knows? Maybe it's just they just wanted to add in ray tracing, and they're like, that 6 months.
Right, that's the other
element of the room is
that it could be that there's just like, especially because the time between the state of play and the delay was so short. It's like, did they really sit down? Like, someone opened up Twitter on their laptop, put it on the big screen in the meeting room and said, "Yeah, we need to delay this game," and the suits were like, "Yeah, agreed." Or is this like, hey, it turns out that like Final Fantasy and Diablo and Street Fighter and all this shit is coming out like within a few weeks of us, and we'd actually just rather get a quieter slot. And it turns out we've heard on the grapevine that October's looking healthy, so see you there, because this is an important game for our release. Oh, or could it be Warner Brothers that were like, Hogwarts did so much that we don't need you in the same quarter. We actually don't even want you in the same quarter.
Yeah.
To add,
fuck those.
It could be any of it.
It could be anything. Although it does get a little bit more interesting, just to throw the cat amongst the pigeons, because whilst we're still waiting for Warner Brothers to comment on Jason Schreier's Bloomberg article, Jeff Grubb from Giant Bomb has said that he's been speaking to reliable sources, and they've told him that the game may not arrive until next year, and it will be a lot longer delay, and that this is a delay-ass delay. Like, this is a bigger delay than anyone is putting out there at the moment. Which, if that is the case, that suggests that it is not just like a timing thing. It's not just a Q4, Q2 thing. That there is like, shit, we have made a mistake. We need to fix this damn game.
Yeah. But even maybe I'm a bit like, I don't know for sure, but even a year kind of still for me taps into what Chris is saying, which is that like a year is still far closer to tweaking than it is to overhauling. If you were kind of to, have a spectrum with one on one and one on the other.
Take Cyberpunk. We're like, there are fundamental flaws with the way that this game conceptualizes its gameplay loop, right? Yeah. And look how many fucking delays and back and forths and updates since release that they've had, and it's like, there's still a fucking wanted system that's not really fitting in with the game, and a police system that's not really fitting in with the game. Like, that stuff doesn't get changed.
It's so hard to do that stuff in even a year is not a long time to make those fundamental changes to that sorts of systems.
Like the joke we made in the group chat, sorry Chris, was about Halo Infinite, which was delayed by an entire year and still came out, and it didn't have campaign co-op at launch. It didn't have a Forge at launch. The multiplayer died in its arse because of a lack of support and because of lack of content. Like, they still weren't ready after that year-long delay, which itself was flabbergasting. So
So to all of this, okay, my point. Do you know what games need to do? They just need to announce 6 months before they plan to release. Okay, like yes, you could still have delays, but like I think that what's happening now is like, oh, let's announce our fucking game with a trailer that's like got fuck all to do with our game, and then a year later we'll release another trailer that's like again doesn't show off our game.
Isn't that what this was? This was them saying like, yeah, the game is basically ready, so we're here to tell you the game's coming out in 3 months, and it still got delayed. It doesn't matter how close.
But what I'm saying is that like. It's not. How long have we known about Suicide Squad? When was that first trailer?
God, I think it was 2020.
Right. Okay. So what they really should.
And the game was announced to be released in 2022 as well. So it's already had like a push from 1 year to another.
Yeah, and look, I mean, delays are going to happen. But what I'm saying is like, if you take it upon yourself to not fucking release information about your game while it's still fucking half-baked, half out of the oven.
What I'm saying is this wasn't half-baked, and every single person on that team, look at the videos they filmed. This was a game that was 100% coming out in May, and then something unprecedented happened. So I'm saying it's still inevitable.
Yeah, it is inevitable, but it does. What I'm saying is it softens the blow because you're setting yourself up for failure by saying, "Yeah, game like fucking do all this, do all that," and in my opinion, there is no reason for it because you can save so much face by shortening that release window and that marketing cycle. Save yourself a bunch on marketing to begin with. Keep that marketing cycle really nice and simple. And if there's a delay, it doesn't feel this impactful. It really doesn't, in my opinion. Right? Like, but you come out with a game and you're like, oh yeah, and then it's going to come out next year. And then next year rolls around, it's like, no, it's going to come out the year after. And then the year after, you contractually obliged to do a fucking PlayStation State of Play, and so you have to do it. And then the week later, you say that like the marketing cycle of games is broken at the moment, and they just need to change that. And I think people will feel a lot better about any of these things that are happening.
They need to listen to Nintendo more, and just like be like, oh hey guys, we've got a game. It's coming out tomorrow. And you're like, oh is it? Oh cool. I look forward to playing that.
Let Shadow Drop be the fucking buzzword of next year, please.
I mean, Xbox pulled off my favorite Shadow Drop of the year so far. I mean,
Hi-Fi Rush?
Yeah. Metroid Prime sounded cool, but yeah, Hi-Fi Rush, obviously.
Yeah. But like always, I always go back to like to say that it can't be a success. You look at Hi-Fi Rush, fine. It's not like a 20 million user success, right? But it's successful enough for what it is. And I always go back to Fallout 4. And okay, fine, it released. It was a buggy mess because it's a Bethesda game, but I still fucking loved it. But it was like 6 months. Like they announced it, they gave a release date, and they hit that release date. Should they have delayed the game? Maybe. I mean, let's not point fingers here. But you know, and Fallout 4 was the most successful Fallout. It had like only recently did it have like concurrent player records broken. Like the thing is, there is merit to doing it within a 6-month window.
But then my question is, if that was such a success, why have Bethesda become one of the most noteworthy examples of not learning that lesson?
Yeah, well, I have no answer for.
When they announced Starfield and Elder Scrolls back-to-back at E3 2018.
It is mental.
Because we were there. We were, remember, Jonesy? We were in...
Yeah.
We were in LA.
I remember, man. I remember. I think there is a problem. You want to tell people what you're working. I do think there's a thing of you want to tell people what you're working on, and you want to give them something to look at and aim for and be excited about. And it must be so. Do you know what?
And make sure it doesn't get leaked.
And make sure it doesn't get leaked. There's so many things you want to do and you want to hit. It must be, and to keep things to yourself and to not talk about them. And you know, especially when you've got like 5-6 years of production ahead of you, it must be soul destroying to work on something and for it not to talk about it. Partially as well, because if you're inside that company, if you're inside the industry, you know there's potential that game's never coming out. And actually, you could end up being in a situation whereby, as far as people are concerned, you're never working on anything ever because nothing you ever make. If you had a few failed projects, it could be like, what have you been doing for the last 10 years? And you're like, I can't talk
like
about
fucking Ghost Story games. Like,
right.
But like, it just like rather that, right? Like, okay, you say leaks, but a lot of the leaks that we see are from marketing materials.
Yes.
Some of the times, and so, half the time, and say the other half is like from build leaks, right?
Or Amazon putting up the fact that your game's going to be for sale at some point.
Yeah, but that'll be part of the marketing strategy, right? Like sending it out to vendors, etc. Like, you minimize so much by just doing that. I don't know why they don't do it. But hey, I'm not in fucking games marketing and I'm not in games production, so who the fuck knows?
Well, I think the depressing thing about like, so you know, if you're a fan of the Arkhamverse, if you're a fan of like
The
Rocksteady,
depressing thing about Suicide, let me just tell you.
yeah, no, it sucks that if you were looking forward to this game, like we've been talking about maybe a 6-month release, a delay release. It could even be longer, but we're in March now, so like 6 months. You're talking sort of September sort of time at best. It seems at this point. But hey, I've got some good news because if this game doesn't come out in September in 6 months' time, there is a game which is coming out in September because Starfield has been given a release date of September 6th. Obviously, it was supposed to be released. Go on, mate.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, yes, it's good news, but you know this was a delay as well, right?
Yes, but I'm just giving people a little bonus to the fact that if this game if Suicide Squad doesn't come out in September and it's delayed even longer, hopefully, I'll say hopefully they'll be able to play Starfield. Obviously, Starfield was supposed to drop. Was it 11th of November last year? Was the original
11/11, yeah,
11/11?
that was their big kind of like thing.
Yeah.
It's the worst, most egregious kind of fucking example of this, right? Because they had a fucking release date trailer fucking go out, and then like I don't even remember. It was within the month, wasn't it? They were like, "Yeah, that's being canned."
Yeah, it was very quick. And then
you know,
sorry,
yeah.
Chris, go for
it. No, it's all right. It's just mad.
I was going to say that it was meant to come out in the first half of this year at some point.
Yeah.
And because like we said, that would have been a 6-month jump, and now we're talking about a year again. You know, getting from 11/11 to September 6th. That's nearly another year.
Yeah.
But then again, it's the question of what the hell can you do in 6 months or a year? Like, it's not a lot, especially with a massive space trotting RPG from Bethesda. Like, is that enough time to do anything? Like,
But then,
I mean, it must be. Otherwise, they wouldn't delay
it, right?
And
also, like, I don't want Psych Odyssey to have to become a sort of point of reference for every game development thing. But there's situations there where, you know, again, I won't spoil what happened. People who are familiar with Double Fine will know what happens in that story, you know, in terms of ownership and where the money might or might not be coming from. But there's a point there where there's like, no, there's no wiggle room on this. We're at the point now where your job is to cut levels, is to cut content, is to take this and get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it. And then things change very quickly, and there are new people who are overseeing, you know, the progress and the funding of Psychonauts 2, and all of a sudden it's like, that thing you were going to cut, don't cut it anymore. And like maybe that's what Starfield was like. Maybe it was like, yeah, this game was going to come out on 11/11/12 with half as many guns and half as many planets and 2 less alien races and 3 less quest lines and so
no horse armor.
That's certainly no horse armor.
There is a weird thing because it's funny you bring up Psych Odyssey, because one thing that did tell me was you can't change what a game is. You can't take a Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, and you cannot take it from a games as a service RPG, blah, 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 and completely transform it. But what you can do, like, again, I don't want to give anything away from like Psych Odyssey, people haven't seen it yet. What you can do is actually put a shitload of stuff into a game or finish a shitload of stuff that you hadn't finished because all the mechanics are there. You just need to finish off modeling, artwork, and you've got a big space where thing needs to go. And actually, you can finish thing and make it really good, or you can even, I think, story writing and script writing was still going on till the very end of Psych Odyssey, and you can absolutely improve on like dialogue and lines and stuff like that, and get your animations like dialed in. So, I mean, yeah, maybe a year is a long time in video games. It's weird because in some respects it's not, and in some respects I guess it is. So it makes it sort of an interesting thing. There's also been confirmed that on Sunday, June 11th, there's going to be a Starfield Direct live stream. So we're actually going to get to see the game and see what it is all about in all its glory.
And Jonesy, a week later, on June 18th, they're going to announce the delay to that game for the third time.
It could happen. But that puts it on the weekend between the Summer Game Fest and E3 weekends, which is pretty cool, because I think also another bit of news we had in sort of the past week was that Xbox have confirmed they won't have a presence at E3 proper, but we know they are doing a showcase on June 11th. So they're still going to be around. They're still going to be dropping.
Their mid-year ones are always the best, man.
Yeah. It sounds like the showcase and the Starfield Direct are on like the same day as well, so you could see like a thing where like showcase leading into the Starfield Direct or something like that, which is cool.
Yeah, because they did that with Redfall, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they've done a lot, and it makes sense, right? Like you're going to get a massive audience for that showcase. So if you can, it's kind of like a lead-in television programming. Like if you can tell as many of them as possible, like, hey, stick around for half an hour of Starfield. Like that's a nice bonus to have. I'm looking forward to both those shows.
Do you know what's really funny? As we were reading this out, I suddenly remembered that I saw a tweet this past week, and I completely forgot. I should have looked it up before we got to this. There was somebody, I can't remember who, I don't even remember who it was, tweeted out that someone in the know had leaked that the next PlayStation State of Play is going to be absolutely epic and is going to be the biggest, best state of play they've ever had. And I'm like, I can't.
It's going to have to be because they. Like, where's their first party stuff?
My understanding of it is, and this is from again just sort of like Twitter stuff and insidery stuff, is that obviously they had showcases in September for 2 years in a row, and then didn't have one last September. And you remember the one that the year before was the one with like Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine and KOTOR remake, and like they usually put quite a lot of into them. And apparently the reason one didn't happen in September was because a lot of devs weren't ready. But we are now approaching this situation where, apart from sort of like deals they've made with other publishers, like with Square Enix on Final Fantasy 16 and Final Fantasy 7 Remake Part 2, which the actual name of which escapes me. Like Sony don't have a lot on the docket. They've got Spider-Man 2, and then I think they're technically publishing that weird anime hack and slash game that the name of which I forget every single fucking time. She wears very tight trousers, and you can see her bum a lot. Basically what I'm saying is like yes, they didn't have a showcase for the first time in 3 years. They have got the PSVR 2 launch out of the way, and now their actual lineup of first-party exclusive games and what people are actually working on is like starting to look thin enough that it would make sense for Sony to come out. And the rumor is before June, so some point in the next two to 3 months, but before sort of E3 season, they'll come out and do one of their sort of big showcases, and we'll get to see like, oh, here's what that Last of Us multiplayer thing actually looks like, and here's what Sucker Punch are working on, and here's actual gameplay of Spider-Man 2, and
the Last of Us multiplayer still happening?
Yeah. Do you remember when
I thought it got cancelled?
No, do you remember Neil went to one of Jeff Keighley's shows? Mr. Dr. Uckman went to one of Keighley's shows, and they did a triple whammy, wasn't it? They did like a teaser for the TV show, they did a trailer for The Last of Us Part 1 remake, and they showed concept art from the multiplayer thing and said it's still being made.
Oh, yes. No, you're right, of course. I completely forgot they even did that. The Last of Us Part 1, we call it Part 1 now, Last of Us multiplayer was, no word of a lie, one of my favourite multiplayer experiences I'd had in a long time when I played that. It was something so visceral and kick-ass about some moments you had in that game. If they can capture that and bring it up to where it needs to be modern day, I will be so into that multiplayer. It's just a game that makes you remember specific moments from multiplayer matches. I love that when they can capture that and they can get you that excited. Really, really hope that.
Hell yeah, brother!
I'm just looking through PlayStation's first-party studios now and trying to figure out what that could be. Team Asobi, the Astro Playroom and Astrobot team, they staffed up big time after Playroom, but haven't shown what's next.
Okay.
Firesprite just released Horizon Call the Mountain. Guerrilla were of course rumored to have 2 teams working on a second one working on a non-Horizon project. Could Housemarque have
wasn't there a Horizon multiplayer?
Yeah,
rumor?
The 2 things that have leaked are a Horizon multiplayer and a Horizon Zero Dawn remaster / remake leaked as well. Do you remember that?
Jesus Christ, yeah.
God.
Housemarque, is it too soon for a follow-up to Returnal? Media Molecule haven't released anything since Dreams. Bend haven't released anything since Days Gone, but are working on something. Blue Point obviously did Demon Souls, but are probably remaking something else. Insomniac, we talked about Spider-Man 2, but has Wolverine made progress? Naughty Dog are almost certainly not just working on Last of Us multiplayer. Santa Monica will give them a pass.
It could be so exciting. I'm not going to get too excited.
Is it time for a teaser for Ghost of Tsushima 2? Like, there's a lot that can happen.
All of that. There's too much exciting stuff that could happen.
Is it like the showcase that they're going to have, like the one they're going to have before that mid-year kind of E3 space, right? Surely they're not going to be too forward-looking, because whatever they drop in that time around E3 is going to be the big one, I would imagine. Or if they just wait for another September.
I don't know. So far,
I think they go earlier.
When you look at, are you talking about like how far projects of our projects?
It's more a question of like how many showcases are they going to have this year? Because if they have one like in this period from now to June,
like
all right,
pre-3.
And then pre-3, and then post-3, I would imagine that pre-3 they show further along things of stuff that they've announced, and post-3 they show off upcoming titles. That's how I'd imagine they do it.
It's possible.
Yeah, it's hard to know.
If they have two, that would be the way to do it for sure. But if they have one, like one thing I will say, like for as much as both Microsoft and Nintendo have flirted with that, for the next hour, we're going to show you games that are coming out in the next 6 months kind of idea.
Yeah.
PlayStation, traditionally with their showcases, do not give a shit. And there are things from like the PS5 price reveal showcase that are still not out. Like, do you remember Pragmata from Capcom? The weird astronaut with the little girl and then fires a weird net around a satellite. Like, KOTOR remake was just a fucking logo when they showed that. Wolverine
they are the worst for just getting like anything they can say that's coming, just like trying to go, look what's coming, and it doesn't matter how fucking pie in the sky it is. They just want you to
see that's why I had mad respect for Sean Layden, because towards the end of the PlayStation 4's fucking lifestyle, do you remember at E3 they were like, we're just going to show you 3 fucking games, bitches, but they were big ones. It's like, okay.
Yeah, that was cool. E3 2018, right, where it was Death Stranding, Tsushima, Last of Us 2, and Spider-Man. It was just like, they're all gonna get big slots, and that's basically our show.
And that's it. That's all they're gonna show. And that, you know what? That was dope. That was super sick.
It was incredible. But hey, look, we've been going for a while. We're reaching the end of the show, and because of this new format, because we are live, I would just like to take a few minutes to throw a few quick fire questions, things people have raised from the chat. If you boys are up for
lovely.
it. Friend of the show, Alex from Just Interesting, has said Bloodborne remake, or is it just
there he is?
Thinking?
Fucking possible, man. Like, that is Sony's IP, and they do have Blue Point, which is their first party. Now they are their first party developers. So never say never. Because a lot of people are like, I don't know, man.
It's tough, like, because it's one of those things where something's been a rumor, and so long enough that it's almost become a meme, then you're tempted to just say it will never happen, and that's why it's sort of entered into that territory.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right in that, like, Blue Point are there. Would I be a little bit disappointed to see Blue Point tackle 2 FromSoft remakes back to back? Yeah, kind of. Especially considering rumors of like fucking everything from Metal Gear to, you know, whatever, Castlevania, all the weird shit they hinted at when they put out that cryptic tweet. But at the same time, like, and also for as much as there's that argument that, surely if there's money on the table, a developer will grab it. But like, we all know that games have for a long time not worked that way, and there are lots of bars of money on lots of tables around the industry that in some cases have been there for years, if not decades, that haven't been reached at. So I just don't know. I don't know where FromSoft are at with that and their interest in it. I don't know where Sony are at.
But you see, this is the funny thing, because from what I understand, Sony outright owns the IP. I mean, yes, it is kind of like sticky in who owns what, where, why, and how. But I think that's why they managed to just get Blue Point completely on board with Demon Souls remake, because they were able to do it From Soft be damned in a way. And it's funny, like I was watching something on YouTube about someone saying, well, why don't Sony just release a PS5 patch for the existing Bloodborne to bring it up to 60 FPS, etc. And what this person said, I can't remember who it was, but what this person said was effectively like, they own the IP outright. They know how beloved it is and how much people are clamoring for it. That if they do anything for it, it should be, in their mind, and they're quite informed in this space, in their mind saying, well, it's got to be of a Demon's Souls remake caliber than just a PS5 patch.
You got to make money on it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
There was a bit of that. Do you remember when like the PS5 launched and talking about PS5 patches, lots of games were getting them, but there were different treatments for certain games. And the one I always remember was of all that recent group of titles, ironically half of which we just mentioned, Spider-Man got a brand new PS5 re-release. Ghost of Tsushima got a brand new PS5 re-release. Death Stranding got a brand new PS5 re-release. The Last of Us Part 2 only ever got a patch that said, yes, this will run at 60 frames per second on the PS5. But they never went further than that. And there were rumors of like a Last of Us 2 director's cut for ages. And you wonder if it is that thing of like, like if we're going to do it, we'll make sure that we make money, that it's substantial enough that we can sell it as a new product and make sure we make money out of it. And maybe that's why they've avoided kind of like, sort of like temporarily or sort of like, putting a plaster over a gaping open wound when it comes to people's love and desire for more Bloodborne content. But I don't know.
Yeah.
That game never even came to PC, right? And that was another thing that like Bloodborne PC was apparently just an impossibility because of the way that game was made. So it seems like a particularly complicated beast.
Yeah.
Resistance Fall of Man needs a remake, says Urinator.
Oh,
I was not a fan. I'm gonna be honest.
Does it?
So I would say it doesn't. But if you're a fan, I can. That's the thing about remakes. Is the weird thing is everyone has games that they want to be remade. Like I have loads of shit games that I'm like, oh my god, I'd love to see a remake. But
I straddle between the line because sometimes I think I'd just really like another entry. Like as a perfect example, like a new Killzone would be pretty cool. Like considering what could a new Killzone look like in a new kind of Guerrilla Games, PlayStation 5 kind of sensibility, like that could be pretty fucking cool.
I think that's a great argument. I think that works perfectly for Resistance as well. Like, I'd be interested to know for the Resistance remake kind of like gang, like why would you want the first Resistance again over a new Resistance game? And maybe they wouldn't, and maybe it's just, but maybe a remake seems more plausible. But yeah, I don't know that Resistance needs to come back. Nor do I know that, even though Insomniac are clearly capable of making 17 pieces of software simultaneously at no cost to any of them in terms of quality, I don't know if that's the one they need in their docket.
Wheeling back around to Starfield quickly, do you think Microsoft were the people that influenced their decision to delay, or do you think it was Bethesda, or do you think it was both, or neither? It was somebody.
I mean, Microsoft have to.
Do you think Microsoft
right?
effectively? Well, they allowed it, but do you think it was them saying, "Hey guys, if you need the time, so we're going to give it to you," or do you think it was Bethesda saying, "Fuck, this game is not ready. Please give us more time." It's actually interesting because watching Psych Odyssey, one thing that happened in that was Microsoft bought Double Fine during the course of that program, the documentary. And one thing that happened there was Microsoft went to Double Fine and said to them, "Hey, look, we think you need some more time on this. I know we gave you this date and that you were pushing really to get this date. How would you like another 3 months?" And they were like, "Fuck yes, please. We would love that." So it seems like Microsoft, as rather than a company that are pushing to always get everything released, necessarily they are giving companies, in this one instance obviously, time to make sure they're happy with the product that they're pushing out there. So maybe it was a case that Microsoft said, look, you want the time, we're going to give you that time because we want a good game, the best game that you can put forward. So maybe it was a bit of both.
Yeah. And Microsoft have shown no aversion to making even stranger or seemingly stranger decisions to delay games at certain points. I mean, I can't remember. Was it the Xbox One X or something like that? Where they delayed. it must have been the One X, where they delayed so many things. But I think this kind of happened to the Series X as well. They delayed so many things and allowed so many things to step that they were essentially launching consoles with no exclusive software. Right? I remember there was one console launched for Xbox where like the only thing that was there at day one that could take advantage of it was the console version of PUBG, and you're a bit like, geez, like maybe you should have told a few more games that they had to stick to their release date. Like, bugs be that. So,
that's a good
but I remember Phil Spencer when they were talking about the Microsoft acquisition and saying what it could mean. Well, no, maybe it was Bethesda actually. Saying what it would mean for the devs that they're buying, and Phil Spencer was like, it just means that we are able to let those developers create the best version of the games that they want to. And what in my mind, what that meant was like, here's a bunch of money and here's a bunch of time, and just make it as good as it can be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is the reason why we've seen seemingly such a drought in kind of like first party titles from Microsoft, because they are really a case of saying like, when these bang, these are going to fucking bang, so let's just spend money. But then again, like, you get the Halo Infinite situation, which kind of does muddy that way of thinking.
It does, but I think your first point is absolutely, like, I think there are lots of games that back up the first argument you just made, and like the games that feel like they should have come out by now, that would have made the Microsoft and Xbox sort of first party release date look a lot less barren. Like, you talking about the fact that Hellblade 2 was revealed alongside the reveal of the Series X at that Game Awards, whenever it was, or like how many, like, there's been more like 2 Forza Horizons in a row because of how long Forza Motorsport is taking. Like, they're clearly just allowing games to kind of do. We joked last week about how, the story behind the scenes is that Fable has like barely just entered production, and it's just a long way off. So there does clearly seem to be some patience on the part of Microsoft to make sure that the product that they release is the right one. I hope, it's not, how long's a piece of rope? Like, every game's got to come out eventually, but
has it? Is Star Citizen ever coming out? not to mention it twice.
Star Citizen is out, man. That is the product that they always intended to release, because they know that people just sink money into it. So,
all right, as a last comment, Suicide Squad is basically going to be Overwatch meets Marvel Avengers. At some point, they'll release a battle royale mode.
Damn, that's a scary thought. 1,000.
I don't want to invoke
another.
I don't want to invoke another less than stellar experience, but I'm not going to lie, watching the co-op gameplay and seeing how some of that worked with regard to, like, not like the second to second gameplay itself, but how it looked like it would feel to play, I couldn't help but think about how underwhelmed I was by when Gotham Knights did their gameplay showcase, and it looked just a bit flat. It looked a bit like this game is not going to be fun. Yeah. And the way that Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, like some of the aerial, like floating around in the sky, just shooting, bosses as Killer Shark or King Shark, whatever it's called. And yeah, like you said, I think it was Jamie said before, like how Captain Boomerang's just using an assault rifle and Harley Quinn's using an assault rifle, and you're killing just like random mobby people with like
helicopter with a purple glowing part on it.
Everything, shoot the purple. Literally, do you know what was the game with the shoot the red, which Jamie was playing? Shoot the red thing.
Oh, that was the Division 2 with a giant drone thing. We're like, Jamie, just shoot the red light.
I was so angry at you too.
This is going to be Jamie, shoot the purple. And it's just like, oh yeah, everything big and gross and purple is a weak spot. Just shoot that. And that, I'm like, that's not a rock steady game that I'm excited to play. Yeah. Like, let's be honest, Arkham lived and died on the Batman's hand-to-hand combat system. Without that, you've got a cool game with some fun ideas, but you haven't got a game which people talk about for years and years. And I'm worried. I don't think necessarily saying it's going to be Overwatch meets Marvel Avengers is that wrong.
It does bring up an interesting thing for me in like, what is happening with Overwatch 2? That I just seen that they've had a One Punch Man crossover, and I'm like, this is what it's resorted to.
Fortnite.
Yeah,
like, it's got to go Fortnite.
Even Fortnite doesn't seem to be Fortnite anymore. That's the other thing. It's like, I don't know if you see what Fortnite looks like now, but Fortnite doesn't look like Fortnite.
I know they took out building
because it's on Unreal Engine 5, right? So
Yeah, but also like the traversal that they seem to have put into that latest update is like there are grind rails everywhere and people doing like weird flips and shit. It's like Jet Set Radio, except it's Fortnite.
Oh God, yeah.
Sunset Overdrive comes to Fortnite.
And it's it's funny.
We
talked about Sunset Overdrive in relation to Suicide Squad before because we said it looks like
yeah. So it was like, hey, how would you like to jump in the air but have everything just slow down enough that you can still shoot these weird monsters that
purple things?
Yeah, well, basically, yeah. Swap orange for purple, and you go call it a game.
Well, with that, Sunset Overdrive. Yeah, with that, I think it's time to bring to an end the first live.
Hell yeah!
Super show that we've done ever.
Did we have any technical difficulties, Jonesy?
I don't think we had any technical difficulties. I think everything.
How many drop frames have we had from OBS? Does it say?
Yeah, mine says 0, and my connection says excellent connection to the live. Although there's constantly a little spinning wheel, so I'm worried that actually this whole time it's been bugging out and glitching for everyone. I hope it hasn't been so bad. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you everyone for joining in the chat and for chatting and for being here and for enjoying with us. It was pretty wicked. Yeah, so hopefully we'll do more of these in the future. Hopefully I'll get Chris and Jamie to stick with it and to not hopefully not watch it back and realize how many bugs and how shit it actually was, and that I did. And I won't fuck up next time and not include the audio.
Oh, it's all good, Jonesy. You did a great job, man. Thank you.
Honestly, like I always have, the highest of expectations for you in everything you do because that's just your track record speaks for itself. But this has somehow exceeded those already lofty expectations.
I thank you for your work. I thank you for that, but I'm now going to call you out because Premium Technology said, "Does Jamie's webcam count as a technical difficulty?"
I've ruined it.
Jamie's Jizzcam was the only technical difficulty that we had.
Actually, in a world first, like Jamie's camera and my fucking laptop needing power, those are the two technical difficulties. Jonesy was on point.
We've actually ruined it for you.
It's going to annoy you, Jamie and Chris, the number of times that I've gone like, oh shit, my headphones have died. I've got to drive home, get a cable, come back, plug them in, and just cause some fucking havoc. So I'm glad that it all seemed to go off without a hitch. Thank you, everybody, and we will see you next week for another Super Show podcast.
Boom. See ya.
Bye.